Okay, guys, here's my problem. I am trying to create a YouTube channel for my business. Now, I know what you're thinking. This friggin' guy, another YouTube channel. I get it. I get it. That is more than fair. However, in my case, I own a very, very regulated business. I own a chain of authorized cannabis retail stores in Ontario, Canada. And if anyone is familiar with the regulated Canadian cannabis landscape, they will know that it is incredibly regulated. And I don't mean in the sense that, there's lack of banking or there's lack of this or lack of that. In fact, it's the opposite. There is too much of that structure. And because things are so early on, there isn't a whole lot of flexibility to that structure. That being said, when it comes to basic things like advertising, communicating with our customers, communicating with our producers, testing labs, all of these different parties to which we want to exchange information and exchange pleasantries, it is very, very difficult for us to do that. And by that, I mean, usually most companies in most industries can use things like social media, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. Being in a business that is only technically federally legal in Canada, it is very difficult to use said online social media platform products that are owned by American corporations that are adhering to their own federal regulations, most of which obviously do not include cannabis to be federally legal. That being said, when it comes to things that are very simple, like a simple post saying, hello, how are you today? Hashtag cannabis, hashtag pride, hashtag whatever. You are at a possibility that post is most likely going to be flagged. And not only does that happen once or twice or sometimes, that happens probably 7 or 8 times out of 10. Now, throughout our first year, we've tried multiple ways to kind of get around this. The main way that seems to work is creating a post and then screenshotting it, and then essentially not adding any tags, not adding any like personal tags for people or companies within it, and then hashtags, and then any kind of captions or anything that include the words cannabis or any of these sort of things that compare to the drug itself, or the cannabinoids that are in it, the components that are in it, or paraphernalia that revolves around it. And as a small, locally owned, locally operated chain of stores, this makes things incredibly difficult for us, especially given the fact that we are in a fairly rural area, meaning that, a lot of people aren't up with TikTok, a lot of people aren't up with LinkedIn, a lot of people aren't up on some of these other platforms that necessarily are away from the Facebook umbrella, which means that, at times it can be almost impossible, other than word of mouth, to communicate with our customers. Even right now, our Facebook account, our Facebook page has been shut down for essentially the last 2 months. We try to reboot it, and then it just gets shut down right away. Instagram, probably out of the last 10 posts that I tried to put up, again, 8 of them were shut down. 2 of them were basically, again, a simple screen capture, with no comments, with no caption below it, with no kind of, hashtags to draw more attention to it, with nothing, essentially, which is better than nothing, don't get me wrong. But for us, obviously, we're in an incredibly competitive environment, and being, like I mentioned, a small, locally owned, locally operated entity, we need to make sure that we are as efficient as possible when it comes to all avenues of our operational side of the business. That being said, I am really determined to start a YouTube channel for our business for the new year. We have all kinds of unique things that we have taken on in order to diversify ourselves as authorized, regulated cannabis retailers in Ontario. We've gotten into cannabis and wine tours. We're one of the first outfits that I know of to implement a cannabis lounge format in basically all of their stores. Our 2 new locations that are coming in the new year will be fully off-grid, meaning that they will be built on a mobile format, meaning that they can be picked up and moved. And then also all of the utilities, electric, hydro, gray water, you name it, is all going to be completely off the grid. And from what I know of, to my knowledge, we're going to be the only ones, again, in at least Ontario, to do that. So we have a lot of interesting things going on. We have a lot of interesting things to share, because with these different experiences and with these different trails that we're trying to blaze within our portion of the cannabis industry, there are things that obviously we're learning what to do, but most importantly, what not to do. And as a result of that, it's it has an effect on our business, on how we can operate. It has an effect on then how that perceives to certain people or to, just the public in general. Because, as most people know, the cannabis industry is extremely stigmatized. And so right away, coming out of the gates, we're already kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to certain consumer groups and winning over their trust and winning over their support, especially when it comes to a lot of the prescription medication users. Every single week we see more and more people coming in looking for ways that they can whittle down that medicine cabinet and replace it with a CBD product, or replace it with a CBG product, or replace it with a CBN product. It's not always necessarily the THC. So there's all these different aspects, the cannabis and wine, the lounges, the different educational approaches that we've had to take because of our customers and what they've required from us. And there's a lot of information that we want to share with people. And the reality is we need to start spreading out our wings and our tentacles as much as possible, as many platforms as possible, as much content as possible, to be able to share our experience and what we know with others. Because in doing so, our hope is that in return, we'll get information back in this sort of, exchange where we can all make everybody better. And over time, hopefully the industry can become more efficient and can mature in a way that is overall much more beneficial to everybody that's involved. And so that's my goal. The only issue is that personally, I have no experience with videography. I have no experience with editing. I have no experience, even this stuff. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've been going for 8 minutes and 30 seconds. This is the first time I've ever talked to the camera in this fashion on my own, in this somewhat comfortable, vulnerable way, if you can put those 2 words together in the same sort of sentence. In that, all of this being said, I started looking at putting together a YouTube channel, trying to put together the typical welcome to my channel video and all these sorts of things. And I just found that I felt like I'm a person sitting there talking to a teleprompter, and I'm not a news broadcaster. I'm much better at this vlog style, podcast style sort of commentary and dialogue. And that being said, I need help. I need someone's help out there. We're a small outfit. We don't have a ton of money. We can't really pay people a lot of money because we're trying to keep things on as tight of a budget as possible all the time. But to anyone out there who can help me or help us as a whole, it's going to a really good cause. Out of the 2,000 or 2,500 cannabis stores in Ontario, very few of them are owned and operated by the person who actually owns and operates it, if that makes sense. Most of them are owned by large corporations that are looking for an immediate tax write-off, or big corporations that are looking to expand as much as possible and cash out in the extreme long term. There are very few people like myself who is self-sustaining, self-sufficient, comes with his own group, especially when it comes to the vertically integrated side of things. Being able to design our own stores, being able to build our own stores, being able to do our own licensing, being able to do our own operations. These are things that we literally keep within a tight-knit group of people, of maybe you're talking 5 people, where a lot of the retailers out there are burning cash, staffing up on rosters that are have 5 people doing just what I do alone. And the reality is, in the highly regulated environment that we're in order to survive the increased costs from insurance, from rental costs, from all these different things, because cannabis is still perceived as so risky to institutions, you really need to work hard to offset as many of your operating costs going forward. So it's the same reason why for our next 2 locations, we've decided to do fully off the grid. Obviously, there's certain things that we need in place with banking, with insurance, with all these different things. And because of the lack of competitiveness, and the lack of people and institutions that are involved in these different aspects of the business, they get to set their prices. It's not like car insurance where you can just go out and find somebody who offers it cheaper. There's, with banking, for example, there are 2 main banks in Canada that handle the bank accounts in Ontario anyways, for the cannabis retail, for all 2,500 branches. So try to wrap your head around that. And it's the same reason why our next 2 locations are going to be fully off the grid, like I was saying, because that offers us an opportunity to cut down on our operating expenses, all of our utility costs, and also due to the fact that we're building something that we can essentially just drop on a piece of property somewhere, we are not confined to the amount of square footage that is available by somebody else, meaning available commercial spaces. And a prime example, as great as our first 2 locations are, we've have 2,000 square feet at one and we have 1,200 square feet at another, and we probably only need 350 square feet to operate as a business, which means that we are paying rent on space that we don't need every month. We're paying utilities on space we don't need every month, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the different things that we're doing, along with cannabis and wine tours, along with the lounges, along with all these different things. These are the things that we're doing to really diversify ourselves and help make ourselves leaner. The YouTube channel is going to be all part of that. And I don't know how to do it. So if there's anyone out there who's willing to help me create a YouTube channel, help teach me how to film properly, help teach me how to talk to the camera, help teach me about lighting, help teach me how to edit and get everything together and actually start getting these videos out there, I promise in one way or t'other, I can make it worth your while. So I know I've been going for a while. It's probably like a 14 or 15 minute video by the time I'm done. Is what it is. I'm just going to throw it out there because it's at the point where I really, really, really want to do this. And I'm the type of person where there are very few things that hold me back from the things that I want to get done. So if I'm set on something, I do it. And that's all part of my approach with this video, is because I'm so determined to do this and to get this done. But at the same time, I understand and accept my limitations as a human being and my capabilities from the marketability perspective, and not being a videographer, not being a commentator, not being all these different things. So that being said, if there's anyone out there who wants to be part of a great cause, part of a huge up-and-coming industry in a country that is extremely progressive and supportive towards that industry, and towards that substance, and increasing the activity around it, please give me a shout. Reach out, give me a call, send me an email, whatever's easiest for you. You want to hop on Zoom, you want to give me a FaceTime, face-to-face, I always prefer that. Let's do it. Because we've got a lot of good content and a lot of good information to share with the world, and we need you.